Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalaka Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Obviously, Bhagavad-gita is a book that is giving spiritual guidance, not material guidance. Bhagavad-gita is meant for giving every living being the knowledge by which one can come to the highest perfection. That highest perfection is to fully surrender to Krishna without any material attachments. And someone may think, well, this is impractical. Practically speaking, we have material attachments and then we can't give them up all at once. And even if we understand that material life is, everything here is temporary, still we have certain duties. Fortunately, the knowledge given in Bhagavad-gita is not otherworldly. Do you know what that word otherworldly means? It means something so spiritual that it has no relation to this world, impractical. Krishna gives very practical directions how everyone can live in this world and become perfect in Krishna consciousness. Arjuna's whole dilemma was whether or not he should fight. Fighting for a religious cause is the duty of a kshatriya. Arjuna was a kshatriya. But he felt that in this circumstance to fight would not be proper. It would be better to give up that duty. And he gave many apparently plausible reasons why he shouldn't fight. How can I fight against my gurus? How can we kill so many people just for the sake of our own self-aggrandizement? If we kill so many kshatriyas, then so many women will be unprotected. That will lead to chaos in society. So Arjuna felt that in this circumstance not to fight would be better. And quite possibly on the platform of mundane religion, his arguments were correct. However, Krishna brought Arjuna to a higher understanding, which is stated here in this series of verses. This Krishna has already stated in Bhagavad-gita. Naiva kinchit karomiti jatu tishtati karma krit. One cannot stop activity, even for a moment. One always has to do something. Even if one thinks, I will go to a cave and meditate and do nothing, still meditation is also doing something. So Krishna is recommending that, well, you have to work. Even as Krishna also states in Bhagavad-gita, even for the maintenance of the body, some work is required. What is that verse? Jivan yatra. What is that? Na prasiddhya de karmana. Sharira yatra pichate na prasiddhya de karmana. Even to maintain the body, one has to do some kind of work. So in this series of verses, this is described in more detail. Now in the varnashram system, everyone should follow some particular occupation, as brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya or shudra. But that should be specifically performed for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Varnashramacharabhata purushena parapuman vishnuraradyate panta nanyat taptosha karanam. In Vishnu Purana it is stated that for the ordinary man, worshipping the Lord by performance of his duties within the varnashram system is recommended. For the ordinary man, there is no means of elevation but this. Now there is another very well-known verse in Bhagavad-gita. Ananyas chintayanto mam yejanas paripasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam lahamyaham. Who can give the translation of this verse? Very important verse. Now I know, but I'm just asking if you know. If anyone here can say.
Whatever a devotee requires, Bhagavan is giving to him and also safeguards what he is having.
Yeah. But specifically, those who are ananyas chintayantu mam yejanah paripasate, one who is always absorbed in thinking of Krishna. If we think, oh, this is very good, alright, I'll put on tilak and neck beads and then I won't do any work and Krishna will give everything. That is not the point here. Because one who is always thinking of Krishna, he's also busy. It's not that he doesn't do any work. In one of the very old Back to Godhead magazines, in which before Prabhupada came to the West, he was publishing, this is 1940s or 1950s, he discussed this. He said that now I have retired from family life and come to live in Vrindavan. And it is generally expected that having done so, one should live a very peaceful life and engage in bhajan. But people are surprised to see, Prabhupada's writing about himself, that I'm always running up and down to Delhi, collecting donations, printing this magazine, approaching people and asking them for donations, and dealing with different merchants, bargaining with them over the price of paper and so many things. So Prabhupada said, I was busy in my family life, but it seems I've become even more busy having retired from family life. And people think that even though I come to live in Vrindavan, I'm engaged in material activities. But Prabhupada explained how actually this is all purely spiritual activity. The endeavor to satisfy Krishna by one's activities is more spiritual than simply sitting and doing one's own bhajan. Mostly people have a very neophyte conception of what is bhakti. You simply sing a little, ring a bell a little, eat a little, like this. But Srila Prabhupada, as the ideal Acharya, showed that bhakti means to sacrifice every drop of one's blood for serving the mission of Krishna. Hanuman, Bhakta Hanuman, is one of the Chiranjeevis. He's still living in this world. And wherever there is recitation of the glories of Lord Ram, he will go there. He is always engaged in Ram bhajan, thinking of Ram, chanting the names of Ram. But he is not famous for that. He is not considered the greatest devotee of Ram because of his bhajan. There are many devotees of Ram, even now in places like Ayodhya, who are engaged in chanting the names of Ram, living in ashrams and so on. But Hanuman is famous because he fought for Lord Ram. Now often we think, we hear some stories of Ram Leela or different devotees, and we think it's a very nice story to hear. And certainly these are pleasurable to hear. But it's not that we're simply meant to hear about this and then say very nice. These narrations of great devotees are meant to give us direction how we should also sacrifice our energy in service of the Lord. And a devotee who is thus engaged, he doesn't worry that where shall I get money, food, all these things. Automatically Krishna provides, one way or the other. Sometimes devotees may go through severe tests. Krishna may test them. Just like Prabhupada, he went through so many difficulties to establish this Krishna consciousness movement. Many times when he was living in Vrindavan, going to Delhi, he was skipping meals because he wanted to have money to print. He thought, better print the book than eat. You may think, well, how was Krishna providing everything for him if he was sometimes skipping meals? But a devotee himself doesn't think like that. A devotee thinks that whatever happens is all the wish of the Lord. I am prepared to serve him in any circumstance. And a devotee who is thus willing to take all difficulties in Krishna's service, Krishna will bless him with the mercy to do wonderful things in Krishna's service. So this is the attitude of the pure devotee. And the whole Varnashram system is to raise people to that platform of pure devotional service. It's understood that not everyone is ready to fully surrender to Krishna. Although actually it's foolishness not to do so. Because cultivating material attachment simply means to cultivate repeated birth and death. So the great acharyas, they are the guides of Varnashram society. And they try to bring people up to the highest standard. And actually this Krishna conscious movement is meant for that. It is specifically meant for raising people to the standard of pure devotional service, in which there is pure devotional service means there's no personal desire. One simply has to serve Krishna only for Krishna's pleasure under the guidance of the acharyas. Now, if it is said that, well, yes, we understand that people have certain material attachments, that is also not grounds, or that is not a reason to compromise the principles of Krishna consciousness. It's not that someone should say, well, I'm materially attached, and use that as an excuse to go on being materially attached. But one should seriously endeavor to become purified of material attachments. The process is by dovetailing one's material desires in the service of Krishna. Just like, for instance, people generally get married for the sake of sense gratification. But family life, we don't say that, well, those who are married, when they take to Krishna consciousness, they should immediately leave them. But you make your family life Krishna conscious. Make Krishna the center of your family life. So in that way, the material attachment becomes purified. Of course, if one has the opportunity to live as a brahmachari, then he may decide not to enter family life at all. Instead of dovetailing material attachments, if one simply cultivates pure spiritual attachment to Krishna, then that is more favorable for advancing Krishna consciousness. So that is recommended for those men who can adhere to such a vow. It is generally considered a difficult vow because material desires are very strong, even in persons who take to Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness means to declare war on Maya. And Maya is very strong. She is much stronger than we are. But if we fully take shelter of Krishna, then it is possible to be free from the influence of Maya, as it is stated in Bhagavad-gita. Which is that verse? Ask in Tamil. Say it loudly.
Devi Harisha Gunamai Mama Maya Turatya Ame Vaye Parpatyante Maya Meta Tarantiti.
Translation?
Devi Harisha Gunamai. This my material nature is very difficult to overcome. But those who surrender unto me, Maya Meta Tarantiti, they can come out of this.
So, brahmachari life means a life of strict discipline. One should serve dasavan acharan nicho. One should serve, actually it's stated in Bhagavatam, just like a slave with a very humble serving mood. And that is the meaning of brahmachari life. So, if one is not prepared to accept the discipline, take instructions, and so on, then he should go to grihastha life. If one is not prepared to act under discipline in the service of Krishna only, then one can go and dovetail one's material desires. Whether one is acting as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha or Sannyasi, everyone should engage in the service of Krishna. Even to be a sannyasi, if one is not in Krishna consciousness, it is all useless. To renounce this world without knowing for what purpose we should renounce it is meaningless. Without understanding that we are meant to serve Krishna, then what is the use of stopping all or attempting to stop all material activities? So in that sense, even a grihastha in Krishna consciousness is better situated than a sannyasi who does not have a clear sense of Krishna consciousness. Anyone, in whichever station of life they may be, if their life is dedicated to the service of Krishna, they are a Mahatma. What is the definition of Mahatma given in Bhagavad-gita? Okay, alright. That's one definition. Give the translation. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavam bhajate. Then another verse in which Krishna speaks of the Mahatma. Someone said Nityanam. Mahatma anastumam partha ashitaha. Alright, translation. Can you say in Tamil? That's it? So in whichever station of life one may be, one should be Krishna conscious. Modern society is very confused and very confusing. Who is a Brahmana, who is a Kshatriya, who is a Vaishya, who is a Shudra? It seems that everyone is less than a Shudra. Everyone is simply Malecha and Yavana practically. Although someone may be very proud, I'm Brahmana by caste or whatever. But no one is following the Vedic principles. Everyone's life is centered around sense gratification. So the Krishna conscious movement is meant to revive the clear consciousness or Krishna consciousness in human society. Just a very simple point has to be understood. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Enjoyer. We are all His servants. We are meant for His service. We should not approach God expecting Him to engage in our service. Everything, every word, thought and deed should be simply for Krishna's. That is Krishna consciousness. Of course, to develop this consciousness, we have to develop an understanding of who we are. We are not the body. We are eternal spirit souls. But in our mind we're not convinced. And we may go to some so-called Swami speech and he talks all nonsense, how everything is all God, and then we'll also say, Amma. No. Anyone who speaks anything outside the fact that Krishna is supreme, they are deviating from the truth. They may have shastric knowledge, supposed shastric knowledge. They may be good at telling stories and making people laugh. They may be famous swamis who are much lauded by foolish people. But unless one teaches that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his teaching is all mistaken. This is not our dogmatic claim. This is the version of Shastra. So we should understand this point very clearly. And understanding this point, if we engage in the service of Krishna under the direction of experienced devotees, then we can properly progress in Krishna consciousness. Then our work will not bind us in this material world.
இந்த நிலையில் நம்முடைய இந்த உலகாயத செயல்கள் கூட நம்மை இதில் கட்டுப்படுத்துவதில்லை இந்த பந்தத்தில்.
But such work in Krishna consciousness will provide the passport by which we can go to the spiritual world to serve Krishna there also. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any question about this?
People generally think when they come to Krishna consciousness that they will be relieved from all troubles. And then when troubles again come, then they think, oh, what is this? Even in spiritual life, so many troubles, so many misunderstandings, so many difficulties.
So, what's the question?
So, how to explain this misconception?
You can tell people it's a misconception. Not that Krishna, I already put 10 rupees in the box. Therefore, you should remove all my legal problems, my financial problems, my health problems, my family problems. What's wrong with it? Actually, a devotee is free from all problems. Freed from them by understanding that actually I have no intrinsic relationship with them. So Krishna may test us. Do you actually want to serve me or you want me to serve you? It takes some time to come from the neophyte stage of devotional service. The neophyte outlook and the outlook of the advanced devotee or Madhyam Adhikari is quite different. The Madhyam and Uttam Adhikaris are only thinking how to serve Krishna according to Krishna's pleasure. And the neophyte devotee thinks, I will serve Krishna as long as my senses are satisfied. If my sense gratification is impeded, then I won't serve Krishna. The neophyte devotee should always work under the direction of advanced devotees and regularly hear from them. Hearing, again, you have to hear. As long as we are on the neophyte stage of devotional service, we cannot properly advance in Krishna consciousness. We cannot actually satisfy Krishna by such an attitude. And one problem is the neophyte devotee generally thinks, I'm very advanced, I don't have to hear, I already know everything. I know what's bhakti, I don't need anyone to tell me. So with such an attitude, one cannot advance. Then anything else? Then we'll finish here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.